Hello everyone and welcome to Pushing Positivity on the Pier, where we introduce amazing people, take a deeper look into their story, and share how they're making positivity actionable each day. I'm Josh Schiller, and today we have the pleasure of being joined by author, creative director, and co-founder of the design and branding firm Sevenality, as well as the founder of the Always Upward project, David Yarde. Welcome to the show, sir.
I'm excited to be here. It's pretty awesome, man.
And sometimes Batman as well, right?
Batman too, for sure. That's more because I'm like up late at night and everyone's like, what are you doing? Why are you? I'm working. I like it. It's peaceful.
That's what Batman does.
It's true.
He works at night.
And during the day. Like, when does he sleep?
In lieu of the Batman reference, talk a little bit about our origin story. So how it actually went down, I remember we were in somebody else's live. I think they were going live.
Yeah.
And we were kind of just like, engaging with the live.
That's pretty much it.
And it was like, oh, hey, this guy looks cool. Let me talk to him. Kind of connected outside of the live. And then it wound up you were actually in New York City. So let's talk about where you're from first of all.
Yeah. So originally from Jamaica, left there when I was pretty young. Grew up in South Florida. For those that don't know, like how Florida is mapped out, you have Orlando's the whole central Florida area. Tallahassee is like northern Florida where the capital is, and then South Florida is like Miami, Broward, and then the Keys is like a little keychain at the end. So yeah, I grew up in Broward County specifically, and it was a very different place. It's a lot more to the street, I guess you can say.
Sure.
Happiness isn't something that's like gifted out. It's like you got to fight your way out of that situation.
So going back to how we first met, you were in New York City for, I guess it was a conference or some type of workshop,
we were
right?
up there doing like a little bit of a workshop. It was very, very intense. But then after that, I was like, I'm a little bit tired. I don't think I'm going to do this. And for some reason, my wife kept pushing me. And I was like, nope, we're already out here. You're going to do it. Please go do it. And I did. And I'm glad. And it was like, that's not even 5 months ago, man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like,
seems.
It feels like years.
Yeah.
But I think that was like the most defining moment of like this year, and like building solid friendships.
So we grew up in Florida.
Yep.
Right. And have you always been creative? How did you get that creative spark, or was it something that you were just born with?
In some ways, I kind of want to say I was born with it. A few years ago, I actually learned that my great-grandmother, like when we were attending her funeral, that she was a highly creative person. And she was doing it the old school way. So she'd do tailoring and a whole bunch of other things and like take her work over different parts of the island, like pushing like
This is in Jamaica.
Yeah, this is Jamaica. And I was like, what? I didn't even know about this like until like recently. And then looking at like other people, I have uncles who were like DJs, others that like were very good with like philosophy and stuff like that. So I feel like, and then even down to like my mom, she did, a whole range of creative things, being a seamstress, like gardening, like all these things were like there, and I'm just kind of like, wow. So in hindsight, I guess I was always destined to be a creative, but I wasn't quite sure what kind of creative I would be. Creativity just always was there, always wanted to do it in some way. I had the opportunity of being in a club, what was it called? Future Business Leaders of America. And so did that, and I was like, wow, business seems kind of cool. Like, how do I do design and business? So it wasn't until years later that question was really answered. And it was just a matter of me being homeschooled, uprooted from where I grew up in South Florida, having a ton of time on my hands now. And so really my early teen years was just ingesting as much design knowledge as possible, learning how to code things the hard way.
So were you homeschooled your entire...
So middle school and high school. And I think that was very difficult, because a lot of my friends, they were going out, they were going to, public school or whatever, and I was stuck at home. But then I kind of discovered that, hey, this online world is not so bad. There's places like MySpace where I ended up meeting my wife. I was able to actually marry my passion of design and development there on that platform and figure out, I can actually make money with this.
You actually had to build your page.
Yeah, and so I had a custom layout. And people were like, how did you get that custom layout? And I was like, well, I just figured out this thing over here. you put your graphics in, you put like, everyone had music on their profile, like that was a thing. And then from there, it just happened where one day I started in a conversation with a MySpace resource site owner. And he was like, I really like your layouts, and I've been noticing you change them pretty often. He's like, what do you do with the old ones? And I was like, I don't know, just throw them somewhere on my computer. Yeah. He's like, would you mind selling me the ones that you've already done, and also, doing weekly layouts for me? And I was like, sure. Like, how much do I make off of this? And he's like, you make X amount. And I was like, all right, this is actually really, really cool. And so, I met my wife in the midst of that, and we're just like, first remote working team before we even got like really serious dating. And that's kind of like where I knew, all right, I wasn't planning on, getting married, but this was like the perfect thing to happen. We're both really interested in design. We both have like that entrepreneurial mind. We both believe design can make a difference. And yeah, the rest is like history. 8 years later, being married, 12 years of dating, tiny human. Like,
whoa. Let's take a couple steps back. So we get done with high school in a homeschool setting, right? Yep. Was there college after that? No. So I'm 100% self-taught when it comes to being a programmer and designer. Most people, when they hear that, they're like, wait, what? But you do all this stuff, like you don't have it. Like, no. I didn't get that opportunity. There were, not having resources from my family or even support in some cases. And then there was a recession right when, you come out of high school. Sure,
so
2008.
And so it's like, how do you deal with that? Like, you're in a middle of nowhere area already, and so opportunities are very few and far between. Even worse for a person wanting to be in design and creativity. Matter of fact, at the very earliest point of my career, my mom was like, oh, what do you plan on doing after high school? I was like, I would really like to go to college. She was like, oh, that's not going to be like an option. I'm like, wait, what do you mean? And they're like, oh, well, you're going to have to figure that out. I'm like, all right, whatever. And then seeing all of that happen, you kind of see like, all right, well, if I'm really going to do this, I'm really going to have to fight to do this. And yeah, she told me, there's no money in it. And I was like, but I'm not even doing it for the money. I just like learning things. And so the more you learn is the more opportunities you have. And so as you look, and the recession also helped, because it's like you have all these businesses that are the same, and you notice that, designers aren't really the forefront. People want to make money. And so it was a really great opportunity to say, hey, design can actually give you a return on your investment.
Sure.
And so once people started hearing that, they were like, wait, what do you mean? But for me, I didn't realize that I actually had to learn a lot more about like just everything within the field. Like I wanted to get better as a programmer, I wanted to work on, bigger projects. I wanted, variety of things and learn all that I can accomplish and all that I can help people with. So yeah, it was actually pretty fun, and it's weird to say that the struggle was fun, but it was.
It made you who you are today.
Yeah, because I'm more patient. I'm not worried about, oh, is this working or not working? I'm looking at the bigger picture, and then I'm looking at the little things that I could do to get those puzzle pieces into place. I feel like once you're working on yourself to be better, do better, you realize that there are ways in which you can actually be better for the people around you. And so that has been kind of like my whole mission, and somewhere along that range, always upward came to be. So
we're gonna get there, because that is something that I absolutely love. But let's take a couple steps back real quick.
Sure.
So we get done with school. Our mother has just broken the news to us that college, may not be for you.
Nah.
Don't have the resources. You've also made some money at this point, doing MySpace stuff and some other stuff probably on the web.
Yep.
What were the next steps?
From there, I just wanted to gain as much experience as possible. So I'd work at startups, work at established advertising agencies, even worked at a real estate office for a little bit. I just wanted to get as much of, a perspective on where is design, what difference can it make, who are the people really interacting with it. And I had the opportunity, one agency that I was working at, we had the opportunity to rebrand a city for like an entire summer. And so like an entire design campaign, testing it out, and so that was really exciting. You're driving down the street and you look up at the billboard and you're like, yeah, I remember like the meeting that produced that image and that copyright to go up on that billboard.
That's pretty cool.
It touches you in a way that you don't really think about it, because you're behind the screen so many times. People don't even know who it is doing a lot of these projects, and you're churning them out to get things on schedule, make sure everything's underneath budget, and then one day you're out and you see work that you've done in the wild and you're like, yeah, that makes sense. Like, okay, that's actually pretty cool. Like, all right, real people are using what I'm doing.
So for people that may not know out there,
Yep.
we throw around the word design. How would you define design, and for them, what is the best way for them to understand what it is that design means to you?
I would say at the base, everything is designed, right? This pier we're at, there's a design. The city behind us, there's a design to the grid for that. I guess in short, design allows us to accomplish things in an organized fashion. Design is just really communicating, an objective, a mission, and really guiding you through it in a way that's natural, way for you to understand it. The best design doesn't have to explain itself. It's kind of self-explanatory, and it's also simple. It's very hard to put design into a box. Like everything.
It was a loaded question.
Yeah, it's just everything is essentially design.
Sure. So now we've cut our teeth, right?
Yep.
Numerous industries, working in different capacities. We didn't just wind up co-founding a company, right?
No.
There's something in between there.
So I disliked working for people.
Why?
Well, between getting let go either a couple weeks before a major holiday or even the last one was being let go on my birthday, I always liked the freedom of being able to do things, and I always felt as if I was being trapped in an office in four walls and not being able to communicate. And design is best served outside. The people that are interacting with your work are outside the four walls that you're in. And so I really wanted to be able to have that flexibility to do things like travel. I wanted to have the flexibility to just not have to slave away for 75, 80 hours a week. And at the end of the day, what do I get out of it?
So that pivot point was getting fired on your birthday.
It was that, and also landing myself in the hospital twice for overworking.
Wow.
Yes. And so the second time was shortly after I had become a parent. And I think that's when it really, really hit home. I was like, if I keep going at this pace, I'm not going to be around to see the most important parts of my daughter's life. And so that was really the thing that was like, all right, now or never, do or die. So I'd put in 75, 80, 1 week I clocked, I think 95 hours. And then I would do that. And then at night, still work on whatever until I got tired. Weekends, same deal. Literally to the point people are like, yeah, we're not even gonna ask David to go out. If he shows up somewhere, that's enough for us. And I respected that. I think that was one of the things that I enjoyed about the friends and people that I had around me was they may not have fully understood the mission or vision that I had, but they were willing to support me to get there because they saw the impact or difference that was being made around. So I find it a whole lot easier just to live. I don't need to preach at anybody. I don't need to tell you how to live your life. You're gonna learn more and remember more based on how I treat you, how I treat, the person serving my food, the person, emptying the trash. Those are the people that I want to talk to because they see everything.
Sure.
And no one's really talking to them or making them feel as if they're a person. And what they do is so much more important than, me sitting at a computer for 14 hours a day, typing on a computer, thinking I'm changing the world when they're the ones making sure the environment isn't getting overburdened with trash. So perspective, again, it's been a lot of that has been driving and pushing me forward.
So we went through all those experiences.
Yep.
Wound up being in a hospital twice.
Mm-hmm.
Got fired on a birthday, unfortunately. You got the day off though, right?
The upside to that was we had booked a trip to a
Okay.
beach the weekend with two of our closest friends.
Yep.
And we were like, all right, this is gonna be the thing. And I remember turning to, my friend, and I was like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I literally feel really depressed right now. Like, I just didn't know how to process it. And I was like, what do I do? And he's like, you can literally do anything. And for most people hearing that, it could throw them into kind of like analysis paralysis, where you're like, oh, well, I have all these things that I possibly do.
Do everything.
Right? But I think he knew giving me that answer, it was just kind of like, I know what you want to do. Because shortly before that, I had interviewed with Google. And we're going through, and halfway through the interview, the guy stops me, and he's like, you know what? If you were going to be a developer here, you'd be unhappy. And I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, I can tell you're a pretty good developer, but that's not the way your brain is wired. And I was like, wait, what? And he's like,
what, Google?
How are you? What? This doesn't make any sense. And he's like, yeah, you're more centered around brand strategy. And I was like, okay. And he's like, yeah, keep your eyes open for any opportunities that pop up and whatever. And I was like, all right, that's cool. And most people would be like, oh, I got shot down by him. And I was like, no. The fact that I interviewed here was even considered or whatever. And then to get this advice that is basically worth its weight in gold.
Direction.
Yeah. I'm sitting here and I'm like, hold on a second. I'm literally building a company like this, right? Do I want Google to be my employer, or do I want them to be a partner / client? And so that's kind of like the goals that I've been like setting, working towards. And yeah, I mean, that in between was a lot of really aligning myself with like my North Star. Like, yes, I want to do this thing. I want to make a difference across these areas. How do I do that? And a lot of that's just keeping your head down, getting work done. It's easy to get wrapped up in other people's lanes. You see someone else being successful. You're like, oh, why am I not being that successful myself? But you have to realize a couple things. Different perspective, different place where you've started beforehand, different place where you're ultimately ended up going, even if you have like a shared idea or goal or mission. There's so many things that are different about that you really just have to stay focused on who you are. Like, what are you really most passionate about doing? I just like creating things. It doesn't matter if it's photography, videography, writing a poem, that's just my jam. And it gets even better where I'm able to help people figure that out for themselves. And that light bulb moment when I see, a client figure out like, oh, that's how I can make this thing happen. It's like, it's worth it, right? It's worth all the late nights. It's worth all the crazy emails that sometimes come through, and you're just like, oh, like how do you even deal with this?
So before we even got those emails, we got redirected by Google.
Got redirected, right? For sure.
So I know you've also written a book. So did the founding of the company happen first, or did the book happen first?
So founding the company happened first.
Okay.
By at least...
And when was that moment when you were like, you know what? I need to open up a company.
So literally right out of high school. Recession, going into the job market. I was like, I want to own my own company. And I'm going to do it. And I figured if I have extra time, like, how am I going to do this?
But how many years since you were graduated did it take you to actually take action on that idea?
So Sevenality is actually like the third company that I've really like worked. It's like my most successful idea, I guess you could say. But I first started out doing mixtape covers for rappers. That's how I made like enough seed money to, actually before that, going all the way back before then, I used to compete in music forums designing like these things called signatures, and it was like a little thing that would go below your post. Whenever you post, there would be an image that showed up. And so I just experiment with design styles. People started referring me as like, oh, does anyone do logos here? And at that time, I didn't even like...
This guy.
I didn't even know like you're supposed to charge more than $5 for a logo. And so here am I in my like teens, and I'm like, all right, like no one's giving any direction. There's no like resources and all that jazz. And I'm like, man. So I started doing like $5 logos, and I raised them to $10, and then like $15. And then I would start doing packages. So if you want like a MySpace like background with it, you could get that too. If you needed like a book cover or whatever, I would do those as well. And so anything that was design related, I bought a domain name. I think it was like Fire Graphics or something like that. I was playing off of like the Jamaican culture, like more fire, that kind of a thing. And so yeah, it was really, really like cool. I tried to like turn that into something more. That, didn't work out and failed. I then moved into like blogging, to blog about design, blog about all that kind of stuff. I wasn't really passionate about that either. So that kind of fell away, and I ended up going back to design. And I was like, I can't like not be a designer or something. So oddly enough, my very first like corporate job was sales, selling for T-Mobile in a kiosk in the mall. Yes.
I sold for T-Mobile in the kiosk in the mall.
Look at that.
What were those first steps that enabled you to take that idea or that thought or those collection of thoughts and experience and then now transition that and pivot into actually taking the first steps for Sevenality?
I would definitely say some of the friends that I started meeting at that time, and they're like, you know, this is actually pretty cool. Business owners could use this idea. Really great friends still.
What was this idea at this point?
So at this point, Sevenality literally was just like, we want to help make businesses better. Here's design and how we're going to do it. And that was literally it.
Who were you focusing on?
Everybody. It was just like, if you wanted to be different than your competitors, come to us. And then after a while, we're like, well, we had kind of boundaries. We wouldn't do anything, you know, tobacco, adult industry related, alcohol, like those things.
You have a big community focus, right?
Yeah,
in a lot of
really,
your work.
really huge. Like, I feel like, and our motto, which kind of came out of that, is building better communities by building better brands.
Well, where did Sevenality come from first?
So I have a fascination with number 7, and for me, looking at the process of design, it was like something intentional was done for each day of creation. So you had 7 days total. And so that was like, all right, with design, there are intentional steps that we can take through each and every phase. And so it just kind of blended together very organically. I was sitting down and I was like, all right, well, how can I put like Sevenality and quality and all these different things together, or like 7 and quality together? And then that's kind of like how it came like to being like an overarching thing.
Who was your first client?
Very, very first client under the Sevenality banner would have to be a nonprofit called Creation Development Foundation. I think that would be the very, very first one underneath that banner. And we were running completely beta, like at this point, not even like business license. We're just like, you know what? We're gonna test out Sevenality. So we, you know, put together all the little branded stuff, branded contracts.
Were you working at this point? Or
yeah.
Aside from the, where were you working at this point?
So I want to say at that point I was either at a startup or at the advertising agency.
So you were building parallel lanes?
Yes.
So when did the break-off happen from when, okay, we're building parallel lanes to where now like, okay, I think I could sustain life with just Sevenality. When did you reach that point?
2 years ago, I would say, is when that really was.
Was this
like,
after the book?
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about the book real quick.
The book happened when I was having a little bit of a quarter-life crisis about 4 years ago, so when I was turning 25. And I was like, I haven't done anything with my life, and I'm expecting a kid. Like, what am I doing, right? And like, I was writing this book for a while.
Name of the book?
Explore, Journey from Fear to Happiness.
Read it last night. 2 high fives.
It's a really easy read. Like, I wanted it, and here's why I wrote it. I was noticing that in tech, you don't have a lot of time to read books, but people do want to read more. And I was like, what could I write that somebody could literally sit on an hour break and read this through? Or, you know, break it into a couple other pieces if they didn't have a full hour. You know, some people only get 30 minutes. And that's where I kind of started. I wanted to be very, very simple. So you'll notice it's kind of like some journal entries almost. At some points, I would like ask myself a question or ask a question out loud, and then it would just be like, I get a feedback after the book was out, or like, I've never had to ask myself those questions before. And I was like,
asking the tough questions.
You had to. You just really, really have to.
That's where the sauce is.
I was very, very introverted at that point. Like, if we had met then, this wouldn't be happening. First inclination was to go hide in my shell. And so I was like, how do I explore the world around me? And so I'd start with little things like if I'm trapped in an elevator with the UPS or FedEx guy, they'd be like, hey, how's your day going? And then I found little things like holding the door open for the UPS guy. Huge difference.
Thanks, man.
It's like, oh, guess who would get packages first? Our office.
Yep.
And it's not even like he's going out of his way. It's just like subconsciously, it's like, oh, this person's like nice. Oh, this is where they work. I want to have that positive interaction to keep going and doing everything,
Yep.
right? It's like on the way here, we stopped at Starbucks, and immediately, like, people started high-fiving you, and like you could tell the whole atmosphere of the place like changed. They're sharing, they're asking, like, how are things going? Like, that was really awesome to see in the beginning of like how design was making a difference.
Okay, so we've done the book. We've now excelled at getting clients, retaining clients, and also getting new clients, and to the point where we're now like, okay, I can stand on my own 2 feet. Sevenality is the lifeblood of my family, of my life, and we're going to sustain life with this. Then what did life look like after that?
A lot of struggle. It was a lot of, I guess you could say, that vacuum effect. It's like you're working, you have this team around you, you kind of rely on them for so many things. When you run your own company, all those hats now shift to you. And then it was just kind of like, I have all this time, like, what am I even like doing, right?
Nobody looking over your
so
shoulder.
No one's looking over your shoulder. You're just kind of like there, you're trying to get things done. Burnout was one thing that, I balance, try to keep at bay as much as possible. But yeah, I mean, those are things, depression, anxiety, there's a lot of things that I also struggled with, still do to this day in some regards. But it was a lot of struggling. It was like, all right.
How'd you get through those? Because I think that's another thing that, I mean, we talked about here, the leading cause of disability in the world is depression, affecting over 300 million people. How did you get through those times of depression and maybe even self-doubt, right? Starting your own business, going through it. What was your way of breaking through that barrier to moving forward?
So I would definitely say my really, really close friends helped a lot in keeping that open perspective. Because I think one of the things that happens when you're depressed is like everything kind of gets dark. And all you can see is like that little corner where you are, and you're like, how do I get out of it? It's almost like your mind has painted you into a corner. And a lot of that, what's going around you, is also based on who you have around you. So if you have a lot of people who you notice that are complaining, who are, always finding something negative in life to do, that's gonna start rubbing off on you. So I think for me, understanding who I was, number one, in relation to the world around me, was the biggest thing. And saying, what someone else chooses to do, yes, there may be things that reflect and impact me. However, that's not really my problem. What my problem is am I being better or doing better than I was a day ago or a week ago or even an hour ago?
I think that the takeaway there is, and we make it sound very simple after we've been through it in terms of, I had the self-awareness to understand, but in order to gain that awareness or perspective, you have to ask yourself the tough questions.
You do. And I mean, especially for men, especially black males, because mental health is not something that's discussed a lot in my community. You really have to like understand and let yourself be vulnerable. Like, it's okay to cry. It's okay to like be sad about something.
In the book, you said not a temper tantrum cry, but like
you just have to like, sometimes you have to sob and get it out there. Like, it's a natural thing to release that energy.
It's a reset, like you said.
And once you get it out and you're like, oh, okay, like I'm feeling a little bit better, like I've gotten that weight off of my chest, you're now able to replace that with something positive. And so that's where that active choice comes in. It's like, for every negative thing that I'm removing, I have to replace it with something positive, because the vacuum effect, it comes back again. If you take something away, for instance, like a dictator from a country, then what's going to happen? People are going to flood in there because there's no leadership, and they're going to want to all do their things their own way. Now you have chaos. And so that's the same way our brains are wired. We try to, pretty much anything that we do becomes a habit after a while. And so if you're doing good things every day, you're exercising, you're eating healthier, you're getting, 6 or 7 hours of sleep at nighttime, you're doing pretty good.
So you kept going, you got through by having self-awareness, by having the right supporting role around you, and being curious enough to take those next steps.
Yeah.
So Sevenality, idea, execution, where did you take it?
I think a lot of it was learning to niche down. And so a lot of what happened next was really just refining like who we wanted to work with, the projects that we wanted to have. From there, a lot of it was really, all right, well, what are the industries that we really want to look at? I love education. I like, being able to, I don't know, just show kids that there is another way to like make money or live life or express yourself, and you don't have to do the conventional things that everyone else is doing. I think other than that, a lot of it really came down to, I don't know, I just had this vision that I want Sevenality to be something that just impacts wherever we are, and I don't want it to exist within four walls. Beginning years, while we're working full-time jobs, both me and my wife, then coming home and working on Sevenality, we just talked to more people that were along that same wavelength. So the biggest differentiator, I think, was we focused on solving a problem versus trying to upsell, right? And so even to this day, we'll get, a lot of people in and they're like, oh, I need an app. And I'm like, but do you really need one?
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
And I mean, that's the first thing that everyone thinks. Like, they have an app, I need an app. And it's the same keeping up with the Joneses in the digital age, really and truly. And it's like, well, maybe a responsive website would help. Or, this is how much an app costs. And then people are like,
maybe I don't need an app.
I don't need an app now. And then you look, and it all goes back to that community. It's like your community is going to drive the adoption rates. It's going to drive, the early reviews to let other people know what's going on. We try to really educate our client the best as possible before they sign with us. That way we know that you have the depth of knowledge to do at least even a basic interaction.
Now, do you find that most of your clients are people that are finding or developing their initial brand, or people that are rebranding, and also which circumstance do you enjoy working with more?
So that's a tough one, because I enjoy them both. Because with a new brand, it's like a clean slate, right? And you get to make it into virtually anything possible. And then an existing brand, you're like, all right, they have this history that you could work with, and it's rich. I think the thing is, when you're doing a rebrand, you're not trying to wipe away essentially what happened in the past. Because
there is history there, right?
Yeah, but a lot of times when you're rebranding, it's just like, you're maturing. You need to showcase, like, look at Wendy's, right? They stay true to the original brand design and architecture, but they made incremental changes. Twitter Bird, that has changed over the years as well. Most people won't even recognize the fail whale, but that was something that was part of their brand.
I looked at an old screenshot of Instagram, and it totally
right?
I was like, this is how it looked?
Right?
Like, nobody remembers how it used to look.
And do you remember when those changes came out and people were like, oh, I can never use Instagram, this is horrible.
Or the logo, right? When
right?
they changed the logo.
But now you look at it and it's like, oh,
that's an Instagram logo.
That made sense, right? And you're like, okay, and so that's what we try to help people understand. When you go through a rebranding, you have to keep into account all the things, the base layer of people that your brand ambassadors, basically. Your original supporters, those OG people are the ones that helped build and put the platform to where you are now. And so it's really hard to decide between the two, but if I really had to pick, it would be a newer brand to be able to say, hey, this was nothing, and now it's something over here making a difference, sure. Making an impact.
It sounds a lot to me that what you're doing is purpose-driven design.
I never thought about it that way.
So let that sink in for a second. Let that seed plant. So we've been able to really give Sevenality an identity, right? Yep. We know who we want to deal with. We know what services we can provide. We've really developed something tangible at this point, right? So for anyone out there that may be looking for design, right? What type of people would be best served by contacting you?
I would definitely say...
or companies, for that matter.
I would say individuals and teams that have an idea, that's struggling with figuring out, how do I connect my website to social media? How do I just do everything with my brand?
So I think that's a really good point to pivot now for what you just said. Let's talk a little bit about Always Upward.
Ooh.
What is Always Upward?
So that started out as an accident. It literally was me as a creative trying to find a creative outlet to just throw pictures. And I started taking like everyday pictures, and then I discovered a love for black and white pictures of buildings for some reason. And then I would just like grab quotes from authors that I loved and put them on there. And then people started liking it. And I was like, okay. I started using some hashtags in relation to what I was posting, and people started following and sticking around and then sending me messages. And I'm like, this is strange. And so now I think it's like, 3 years that I've been doing this? And people are like, I wake up in the morning and they're just messages like, thank you for posting this. I was in like a rut or whatever. So Always Upward now, I guess you can say, has evolved into a thing that's just like this huge community of over like 2,000 people now.
Wow.
Who are just coming together, trying to be better than they were the day before. They want to improve their personal brands in their own unique way, and they're doing their thing. It's like one of those things that the more I believe, the more I try to, be authentic and vulnerable and say, this is the real me. This isn't like some scripted thing. And it was really great when Instagram started doing stories, because I wasn't a Snapchat fan.
Yep.
And I'm like, I can't get behind Snapchat.
You're going on another platform. Like, come on.
Right? It's not, I'm an introvert. It's just not natural.
Yep.
Like, I have to always do this. And so stories was just kind of like, I could tell a story, right? Like, here's my day. Here's what it's like to be a programmer. Here's some of the stuff that I'm working on. Here are like the problems that I'm solving today, little things like that. Here's something I learned, right? I had this really awesome conversation. Here's something else. And it's weird. People enjoy it. Like, and then I would do things like if I'm cooking, I like break it down and I like, all right, you're assembling this part. This is how you're assembling your personal branding.
Designing food, right?
I'm designing food, right? And so all those things just kind of came together, and it just keeps picking up momentum. It keeps doing its own organic growth.
Where do you see that going?
Honestly, I see it kind of becoming a bridge into a lot more community-based things. But I think right now it's literally just a thing where people come in, they feel inspired, they feel motivated to do something different. They may gain a little bit of courage to take that leap of faith to do their own idea. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing.
So let's just say you're in town again next year, this time.
All right.
Where's David at that point?
Ooh. So I would say hopefully by next year this time, I will have my youth mentorship program running. We started doing beta with that this year, and that was actually pretty cool in being able to introduce kids to photography and business networking, also design, even really rare things like identifying their personality as being like an introvert or extrovert and what they're passionate about doing. And so things like user research or design research, and it's like careers their parents never thought about, and now they have like the awareness to follow a path to do that. And then of course, next year as it kind of goes online a lot more, is to be able to take that and create it as something that can help fill the talent pipeline when it comes to, I think in a short way, bring apprenticeships back, right? The creative field needs a lot of that. Like, you need 5 years experience, but I just graduated high school, right? And you go through the school curriculum and you're like, okay, but this doesn't even give you like 5 years experience or even anything, close to what's going on. So I want to make that a lot more practical for, everyone else. Of course, Sevenality being a lot bigger than it is now, we're shifting a little bit more to really digging into that brand strategy part. So it's like really, really exciting of getting people to understand, all right, I have the foundation, I have the pieces, now let's level this up. And I guess just as an individual, I hope that at some point I will either have published or writing my second book. So like I have outlines and all of that jazz going, but of course finding time to get that done with everything
Future
else.
David, remember, this is you.
So future David, here's what's gonna happen. You're going to focus and get that book done. You are going to actually do things that you never dreamed of doing, but you gotta stay focused. That's literally it.
So this is a part of the show where I really like to kick it over to you, where this is your time to really let the audience know and give them some gems or nuggets, whether it's life experiences, whether it's guiding principles, whatever is the sauce that is David Yarde. This is your time to give it to them.
Ooh. All right, so here's how I see it, right? You get one life to live. There are gonna be a lot of obstacles, a lot of stresses, a lot of things that some days is gonna be really difficult to get out of bed. But the end of it all is, as long as you keep believing in who you are and that good that you wish to see in the world, stay focused on that. Keep creating, keep being amazing. Let your light shine. Like, it's the worst thing to go through life and never experience love, whether it's, loving who you are and appreciating your journey, or loving those around you. I think that is literally the biggest key ever. So, I don't know, just approach life with a lot more love for everything. Try to do even the littlest tasks with, the biggest attention to them. Because at the end of the day, if you were to drop dead the next minute, that is literally what would define your legacy. What kind of person were you? What were you doing beforehand? And I guess my biggest thing is keep aiming always upward. Don't stop looking up. Sure, you'll fall down, but the best view that you have is when you're getting back up to see that, yeah, I failed. I made a mistake, but I'm doing something better to move forward. So I think if that's the biggest secret sauce is don't give up. Keep aiming always upward, create as much good as you possibly can, and just stay focused on that vision.
I love it. So, how do people get in contact with you? Where can they find you?
Ooh.
Social media, email, website?
I would say you want to find me anywhere: Twitter, Instagram.
What are your names on there?
DSMY.
DSM?
MY.
As in
so it's
Mary?
like
DSMY, at DSMY.
Or just look up David Yarde and you'll find me there.
Yarde.
Yep, one of those strange people with a silent letter in their name. Facebook, DSMY Creative. YouTube, David Yarde. Website, davidyarde.com. And if you want to shoot me an email, hello@davidyarde.com.
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 Wow, that's slick.
I like to keep things simple.
That's slick. Very conversational.
Yep.
Wait, are they writing hello?
Yeah, they're just writing hello.
Hello@davidyarde.com.
davidyarde.com.
Well played, sir.
Yep.
So, 2 things left on the agenda.
All right.
Number 1, thank you for taking time out of your day. Visiting New York. You literally came here by train. It wasn't easy. We had to come pick you up. Like, you took a block out of your day to be here. Thank you.
No, thank you, man. Like, you've been legit a really awesome friend. It's the least I could do. And I love having conversations with you. It's like, why not?
And number 2.
Yep.
Maybe one of the most important things that we have to do.
All right.
It's the way we end our show every week.
Jerome time.
But first, a high five.
Of course.